The great chamber floated in space like a crystal ball. Inside, creatures from 800 worlds sat in rows that stretched up to the dome ceiling. Their voices mixed together in a sound like angry wind. Fear filled the air. Ambassador Kethvar stood at the center podium. His blue skin looked pale under the lights. His forearms moved as he spoke to the crowd above him. "Friends, we must face the truth," he said. His voice carried to every corner through the speakers. 12 of our worlds are gone. The Void Collective took them all. Not one person survived. Murmurs rolled through the chamber like thunder. A creature with 6 eyes from the Rigel system stood up. "How many ships does the Collective have now?" she asked. Kethvar looked at his data pad. "Our scouts say they have over 50,000 vessels. Each one is 3 times bigger than our largest warship. They move faster than anything we have ever built." A bird-like being from Vega flapped his wings. "What about the defense fleet at Ceres Station?" "Gone," Kethvar said simply. The station held for 6 hours. Then, nothing. No signals, no survivors. Just empty space where 2 million souls used to live. The chamber fell quiet. Even the air systems seemed to whisper. Kethvar raised one of his arms. "This is why I call for the pragmatic capitulation doctrine. We must surrender now, while we still can. The Collective has agreed to let 23% of our people live if we stop fighting." 23%? The voice came from a tall, thin creature near the back. "That means they will kill 3 out of every 4 beings in the galaxy." "Yes," Kethvar said. "But 23% is better than 0%. If we keep fighting, they will kill us all." Arguments broke out across the chamber. Some creatures shouted for surrender. Others demanded they keep fighting. Most just looked scared. Admiral Thexmore from Centaurus stood up slowly. His people were known as great warriors. "I have fought in 30 wars," he said. His voice was deep and tired. "I have seen planets burn and stars go dark. But I have never seen anything like the Void Collective. They do not take prisoners. They do not make deals. They only destroy." He looked around the chamber. "My fleet tried to stop them at the Helix Nebula. I had 800 ships, the best weapons in the galaxy, the strongest shields, the fastest engines." He paused. 15 minutes later, I had 12 ships left, 12 out of 800. The silence stretched on. Then Kethvar spoke again. "The vote will happen tomorrow. All in favor of surrender will stand. All against will remain seated. But remember this. The Collective grows stronger every day. Soon they will not even offer us 23%. Suddenly, alarms started screaming. Red lights flashed all around the chamber. A voice spoke over the speakers. "Alert. Unknown vessel approaching. Alert. Unknown vessel approaching." The creatures looked at each other with wide eyes. Had the Collective found them? Were they all about to die? A security officer ran to Kethvar. "Sir, it's not a Collective ship. It's something else." "What kind of ship?" Kethvar asked. The officer looked confused. "We think it's human, sir." Gasps filled the chamber. Humans were the newest species to join the council. Most beings thought they were still too primitive to matter. Their world, Earth, was far from the main trade routes. Their technology was basic compared to the great civilizations. "Just one ship?" Admiral Thexmore asked. "Yes, sir. It's big, but it looks." Through the great windows, they could see it. The human ship looked like a flying fortress made of dark metal. Scorch marks covered its hull. Parts of it seemed to have been repaired with different metals, but it moved with purpose toward the council station. "They want to speak to us," the security officer said. Kethvar sighed. "Let them come. Maybe they want to join our surrender." 10 minutes later, the chamber doors opened. A human woman walked in. She wore a blue uniform with silver marks on her shoulders. Her face was hard, like stone. Scars ran along her jaw and neck. Behind her walked 2 more humans, both carrying their heads high. The woman stopped at the center podium. She looked up at all the creatures watching her. "I am Captain Elena Vasquez of the Terran Federation, Ship Times, Indomitable Asterisk. I speak for all humans." "Welcome, Captain," Kethvar said. "We know these are dark times. If you wish to join our surrender talks, we can find space for your people in the protected zones." Captain Vasquez smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "We did not come here to surrender." "Then why are you here?" Admiral Thexmore asked. The human woman stood straighter. Her voice carried clearly through the chamber. "The Terran Federation declares war. Not on the Void Collective alone, but on the very idea of surrender itself. We reject your capitulation. Humanity will fight." For a moment, nobody spoke. Then laughter started. It began with a few creatures, and spread through the chamber like a wave. Kethvar held up his arms for quiet. "Captain, with respect, your species has 47 ships, small ones. The collective has 50,000 vessels that could destroy planets. You have no chance. Your people are brave but foolish," Admiral Thexmore said, but his voice was kind. "You do not understand what we face. The collective cannot be stopped, cannot be reasoned with, cannot be defeated." Captain Vasquez looked around the chamber. "You want to know what we understand? We understand that every species here developed technology to avoid fighting. You made your worlds safe and comfortable. You built ships for trade and exploration. You created weapons only to defend yourselves." She paused and smiled that cold smile again. "But humans are different. We are the only species that came from persistence hunters. Do you know what that means?" The chamber was quiet now. No more laughter. "It means our ancestors did not run from predators. They did not hide from them. They chased them, for days, for weeks, until the prey fell down from exhaustion. Then they killed it and ate it." Captain Vasquez looked directly at Admiral Thexmore. "You see this war as something to end quickly. We see it as something to win, no matter how long it takes." She turned to face the entire council. "You are about to learn why humans are the only species that never learned how to give up." 3 weeks after the Human Declaration, Admiral Thexmore sat in his command chair, reading reports that made no sense. His ship, the Times Eternal Glory Asterisk, drifted near the Vega system where his scouts were searching for survivors. "Sir, another strange message from the Altair sector," his communications officer said. She was young, with bright green skin and worried eyes. "What does it say?" Thexmore asked. "A survivor group reports seeing human ships in the Kepler 442 system." "But sir, that system was cleansed by the collective 2 months ago. Nothing should be alive there." Thexmore rubbed his forehead with 2 of his hands. "This was the 5th such report this week. Ships appearing in dead systems. Rescue signals from worlds the collective had destroyed. It was impossible. Set course for Kepler 442, he ordered. "Sir, that system is dangerous. What if the collective is still there? Then we will find out what the humans are really doing." The jump to Kepler 442 took 6 hours. When they arrived, Thexmore expected to see empty space and dead planets. Instead, his sensors picked up movement near the 3rd planet. "Analysis," he ordered. "2 vessels, sir, both human design. They appear to be loading something from the planet's surface." "Survivors?" "Yes, sir. The signals show at least 3,000 life forms being brought aboard." Thexmore stood up slowly. "But the planet was sterilized. Our own sensors confirmed it. How are there any survivors?" His tactical officer, a bug-like creature with excellent eyes, looked up from his station. "Sir, I think I know. The humans are not just finding survivors. They are finding people hiding underground, in caves, in old mine shafts, places our sensors cannot reach." "The collective sensors cannot reach them either?" "Apparently not, sir." Thexmore opened communication channels. "Human vessels. This is Admiral Thexmore of the Galactic Council. Please respond." A woman's voice came back immediately. "Admiral, this is Dr. Sarah Chen aboard the research vessel Times Never Forgotten Asterisk. We are conducting evacuation operations. Dr. Chen, our records show this planet was completely destroyed. Your records are wrong, she replied. The collective destroys surface cities and orbital stations. But they do not stay to check underground. They assume everyone is dead and move on. And you have been rescuing these hidden survivors? For 3 weeks now, we have saved over 40,000 people from 12 different worlds. Thexmore felt his legs grow weak. 40,000 souls, saved from certain death. How did you know to look? Because we study history, Admiral. Human military history teaches us that people always try to hide when invaders come. Always. It does not matter what species they are, or where they come from. The urge to survive makes them find hiding places. A new voice came over the communication channel. This one was male and confident. Admiral, this is Colonel Marcus Webb aboard the Times. Indomitable asterisk. Captain Vasquez would like to meet with you. Where is she? Follow us. The human ships moved toward the edge of the system. Thexmore ordered his ship to follow. After an hour, they reached what looked like empty space. Then the humans activated something. And suddenly a massive station appeared. Thexmore's crew gasped. The station was larger than anything humans should be able to build. It looked like pieces from a dozen different civilizations had been welded together. How is this possible? His tactical officer whispered. Admiral, Dr. Chen's voice came back. Welcome to Firebase Alpha. Please dock at Bay 7. An hour later, Thexmore walked through the station corridors with 2 of his officers. The walls were covered with displays showing star charts, battle formations, and strange symbols he did not recognize. They reached a large room where Captain Vasquez waited with Dr. Chen and several other humans. The room was filled with holographic displays showing battles throughout the galaxy. Admiral, Captain Vasquez said, thank you for coming. Thexmore looked around the room. What is this place? Dr. Chen stepped forward. She was smaller than the other humans, with gray hair and kind eyes. This is our mobile research station. We study warfare. You study what? Warfare. Military history. Battle tactics. Strategy. Dr. Chen touched a control, and the displays changed to show ancient battles. Humans are the only species in the galaxy that treats war as a subject to learn about. Other species fight when they must, Captain Vasquez added, but they try to forget about it afterward. They want to move on, find peace. And humans do not want peace? Thexmore asked. Of course we do, Dr. Chen said. But we understand that peace must be protected. So we study every war that was ever fought. We learn from every mistake. We remember every victory and every defeat. She gestured to the displays. These show battles from your world. Admiral. The siege of Centaur Prime. 800 years ago. The defense of the 3 moons. The border wars with the Rigel Empire. Thexmore stared. How do you know about those? Most of my people have forgotten them. We have not forgotten, Doctor, Chen said softly. When a species joins the Galactic Council, we study their entire military history. Every battle, every strategy, every weapon they ever used. Why? Captain Vasquez answered. Because the day might come when we need to know how to fight like them, or fight against them, or teach them how to fight someone else. Admiral Thexmore felt cold. You have been preparing for this war. We have been preparing for every possible war, Dr. Chen said. The collective is just the latest enemy. There will be others after them. But how does studying old battles help you now? Dr. Chen smiled. Admiral, show him the Kepler 442 rescue operation. A new display appeared, showing the planet they had just visited. It broke down into layers, showing the surface, underground tunnels, and hidden caves. The collective attacks like the vegan Sky Raiders did 300 years ago, Dr. Chen explained. Fast strikes from space, then move on. The Sky Raiders were defeated when people learned to hide underground and wait. But the Sky Raiders were defeated because a relief fleet arrived, Thexmore protested. True, but the survivors lasted long enough for rescue because they knew how to hide. We studied that war and learned the lessons. Captain Vasquez walked to another display. Admiral, Your people won the border wars because you used hit-and-run tactics against larger enemy fleets. The Rigel Empire had more ships, but you were smarter. Yes, but that was long ago. Those tactics would not work against the collective. Would they not? Captain Vasquez smiled. Tell me, how does the collective respond when a small group of ships attacks one of their convoys? They send overwhelming force to destroy the attackers. And while they are chasing the small group, Admiral Thexmore thought for a moment. Their convoy is less defended. Exactly. The same principle your people used centuries ago. The technology changes, but the basic ideas remain the same. Dr. Chen brought up another display. Admiral, we have cataloged the military history of every species in the galaxy. 847 different ways of fighting, 847 different strategies. The collective has faced perhaps 50 of them. What are you saying? Captain Vasquez looked directly at him. We are saying that the collective is about to face tactics they have never seen before. Strategies from extinct civilizations, weapons concepts from forgotten wars, battle formations that no living enemy has ever used. But most of those civilizations lost their wars, Thexmore pointed out. Yes, but they lost to specific enemies using specific tactics. The collective is not those enemies. What failed against one foe might work perfectly against another. Dr. Chen nodded. Every defeat teaches us something. Every loss shows us what not to do. But more importantly, it shows us what might work if we change just one or two things. Admiral Thexmore looked around the room at all the displays, all the data, all the carefully preserved knowledge of 1,000 wars. You really think you can defeat them? Captain Vasquez was quiet for a long moment. Admiral, 3 weeks ago you had 800 ships. You thought that was enough to stop the collective, but you were thinking like someone who wants the war to end quickly. And humans do not? We think like people who want the war to end with us still alive. Even if it takes 100 years. Even if it costs everything we have. Even if we have to learn to fight like people who died 1,000 years ago. She gestured to the rescue displays still showing refugees being loaded onto ships. Every person we save becomes someone who can fight. Every old tactic we learn becomes a new surprise for the enemy. Every day we survive makes us stronger. And every day they survive makes them stronger too, Admiral Thexmore said. Dr. Chen shook her head. No, Admiral. Every day they survive teaches them nothing new. They fight the same way today that they fought a year ago. They will fight the same way next year. But we will not, Captain Vasquez added. Tomorrow we will fight differently than today. Next week, we will use tactics they have never seen. Next month we will surprise them again. Admiral Thexmore was quiet for a long time. Finally, he asked, What do you need from us? Help us save more people. Help us gather information about collective movements. Help us learn how your people fought in the old days. And in return? Captain Vasquez smiled that cold smile again. In return, Admiral, we will teach you how to win a war you thought was impossible to win. The planet New Geneva looked peaceful from space. Green continents and blue oceans turned slowly under white clouds. But Admiral Thexmore knew that millions of young humans lived on the surface, studying at the largest military academy in human space. Sir, collective ships are approaching, his sensor officer reported. Estimated arrival in 6 hours. Thexmore stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the human defense fleet prepare for battle. Captain Vasquez had asked him to observe this fight, to see how humans really fought when everything was at stake. How many collective ships? He asked. 2,000, sir. All heavy cruisers and battleships. And the human fleet? 300 ships, sir. Much smaller vessels. Thexmore felt sick. The numbers were impossible. No fleet could survive against such odds. A communication channel opened. Admiral, this is Commander Jacob Reeves from New Geneva Academy. We would like you to come planetside before the battle begins. Commander, should you not be evacuating the academy? The students voted, sir. They have chosen to stay and fight. Students, how old are these children? Between 18 and 25 years old. But they are not children, Admiral. They are soldiers in training. 2 hours later, Thexmore stood in the main hall of New Geneva Academy. Around him, thousands of young humans sat at desks, working quietly on tablet computers. They looked calm, focused. Commander Reeves was an older man with gray hair and steady eyes. "Admiral, welcome to Advanced Strategic Planning class. They are having class now? With enemy ships approaching? This is the most important class they will ever attend," Commander Reeves said. "Today they learn about acceptable losses in real time." A young woman at a nearby desk looked up. "Admiral, could you help us with a problem?" "What kind of problem?" "We need to calculate how to destroy the most enemy ships while keeping as many people alive as possible." Thexmore looked at her screen. It showed the approaching collective fleet and the human defenses. Numbers and equations covered the display. "You see," the student continued, "the collective fleet is too big. If we fight them in space, they will destroy all our ships and then kill everyone on the planet. So what is your solution?" Another student, a young man with red hair, answered. "We sacrifice the planet to destroy their fleet." "Sacrifice the planet? How?" Commander Reeves gestured to a large display at the front of the room. "Admiral, New Geneva has 72 orbital defense platforms. Each one is powered by a fusion reactor. Standard defensive systems, yes. But if all 72 reactors overload at the same time, they will create a gravity well that pulls everything within 1,000,000 kilometers into the planet's surface." Thexmore stared. "Including the planet itself?" "Yes. And including the collective fleet when they arrive in bombardment range. But that will kill everyone on the planet." The young woman looked up again. "Not everyone, sir. We have calculated that 43% of the population can reach the emergency shelters in time. The shelters are built to survive planetary destruction. And the other 57%? Commander Reeves answered quietly. "They will die. Including most of us in this room." The room was silent except for the soft sounds of typing as students continued working on their calculations. "Why are you doing this?" Thexmore asked. A third student, a girl who looked barely 18, stood up. "Because, sir, if we let the collective destroy us normally, 100% of us die, and they keep all their ships. If we sacrifice ourselves, 57% of us die, but we destroy 70% of their fleet. That is simple mathematics," the red-haired boy added. 43% of 8 million people is better than 0% of 8 million people. Admiral Thexmore looked around the room. These young humans were calmly planning their own deaths. "Does this not frighten you?" The 18-year-old girl smiled. "Of course it does, sir. But being frightened does not change the mathematics." Commander Reeves walked to the main display. "Admiral, this is what makes human military thinking different. Other species fight to protect their lives first, their worlds second, and their goals third. We fight for our goals first, our worlds second, and our lives third. But surely your lives matter?" "Of course they do." "But Admiral, if we protect our lives and lose our worlds, where will we live? If we protect our worlds but lose our goals, what will we live for?" The communication system activated. "All personnel. Collective fleet will arrive in 1 hour. Begin final preparations." The students began shutting down their computers and standing up. They moved without panic, without rushing, as if they were simply going to lunch. "Where are they going?" Thexmore asked. "To their battle stations," Commander Reeves said. "Some will go to the shelters. Others will go to the defense platforms to make sure the overload happens at exactly the right time. Who decides who lives and who dies? They decide for themselves. We do not order anyone to die. We simply explain the mathematics and let them choose." A young man approached them. "Commander Reeves, sir. I have been assigned to Orbital Platform 7. "Thank you, Cadet Harrison. You understand what this means?" "Yes, sir. Platform 7 is too far from any shelter. When the overload begins, I will not be able to reach safety in time. And you are willing to do this?" The young man stood straighter. "Sir, my job is to make sure the overload happens at the exact right second. If I fail, the whole plan fails. If the plan fails, The collective destroys our fleet and kills everyone anyway. Commander Reeves saluted the young man. It has been an honor training you, cadet. Thank you, sir. See you in the next war. As the cadet walked away, Admiral Thexmore felt something he had never felt before. Not fear. Not sadness. Something deeper and more disturbing. Commander, how do you teach children to think this way? We do not teach them to think this way, Admiral. We teach them to think clearly. When you think clearly about war, these are the conclusions you reach, but other species do not reach these conclusions. Other species hope for solutions that let everyone live. Hope is good, Admiral. But hope without mathematics is just dreaming. The ground began to shake as the human defense fleet engaged the collective ships in orbit. Through the windows, they could see bright flashes in the sky. How long until the platforms overload? Thexmore asked. 17 minutes. Long enough for the collective to get into bombardment position. Close enough that the gravity well will catch them all. And how many students chose to stay on the platforms? Commander Reeves was quiet for a moment. 843. Admiral Thexmore closed his eyes. Nearly 900 young people. Voluntarily going to their deaths. Commander, I must ask, if you survive this, will you teach others to fight this way? Admiral, we already have. Every species that wants to learn human military doctrine can send students to our academies. We hide nothing. We teach everyone who asks. Even former enemies, especially former enemies. Admiral, the best way to make sure you never fight someone is to teach them exactly how you would fight them. The shaking grew stronger. The battle in space was getting closer to the planet. Signal from Captain Vasquez, a technician called out. The collective fleet is moving into bombardment formation. Commander Reeves activated the communication system. All platforms. Begin overload sequence. Overload sequence confirmed, came the response from dozens of young voices. Admiral, Commander Reeves said, we should go to the shelter now. As they hurried through the corridors, Thexmore saw other students moving calmly toward safety. None of them were running. None of them looked panicked. How are they so calm? He asked. Because they know their friends are doing their jobs. Because they trust the mathematics. Because they understand that this is not a tragedy. This is victory. They reached the shelter just as the overload began. The ground shook violently. The lights flickered. Through the thick walls, they could hear the sound of the planet beginning to tear itself apart. Gravity well forming, a technician reported. Collective fleet caught in the pull. They cannot escape. The shaking went on for nearly an hour. When it finally stopped, the shelter was completely quiet. Commander Reeves activated the external sensors. The display showed space around New Geneva, where there had once been 2,000 collective ships. Now there were only scattered pieces of metal falling toward a planet that was no longer there. Casualties? Someone asked. 54% of planetary population confirmed safe in shelters, the technician reported. Enemy fleet, 100% destroyed. Admiral Thexmore stared at the numbers. The humans had done exactly what they said they would do. They had sacrificed their world, and half their people, to destroy an enemy fleet. Commander, he said finally. What happens now? Now we rebuild, Admiral. We take our survivors and find them new homes. We study what we learned today and teach it to others. We prepare for the next battle. And the students who died? Commander Reeves was quiet for a long time. We honor them, Admiral. We remember their names. We make sure their sacrifice meant something. How? By winning, Admiral. By using what they taught us today to win the next battle. And the one after that. And the one after that, until the war is over and no one else has to make the choice they made. A communication signal came through. Captain Vasquez's voice. All shelters, this is the fleet. Evacuation ships are standing by. Well done, New Geneva. Well done. As they prepared to leave the ruins of their world, Admiral Thexmore realized something that made him feel cold inside. The humans had not just won a battle today. They had taught the galaxy a new and terrible lesson. Some prices were worth paying, Some sacrifices were acceptable, and some people were willing to make calculations that other species could not even imagine. The humans called it mathematics. Admiral Thexmore thought it might be something else entirely. The secret meeting took place in the deepest part of space, far from any star or planet. Ambassador Kethvar's small diplomatic ship drifted beside the human vessel Time's indomitable Asterisk. The two ships were alone in the darkness. Admiral Vasquez, thank you for agreeing to meet, Kethvar said over the communication link. His voice was tired and desperate. Ambassador, I assume this is about surrender? Not our surrender. We want to know if you will accept the collective surrender. Admiral Vasquez was quiet for a moment. Through the ship windows, Kethvar could see her sitting in her command chair. The collective does not surrender. Ambassador, they only destroy. But what if they did? What if we could make them stop? Are you saying the Galactic Council is ready to fight? Kethvar looked at his hands. We are saying the Galactic Council is ready to follow someone who knows how to fight. You want humans to lead your fleets? We want humans to teach us how to think like humans. Admiral Vasquez smiled. Not the cold smile from before. A different one. Sadder. Ambassador, follow us to Valhalla. It is time you saw what we have really been doing. The jump to Valhalla took 12 hours. When they arrived, Kethvar could not believe what he saw. The system had 17 planets, and every one of them was covered with shipyards. Thousands of human vessels filled the space between worlds. How long have you been building this? He asked. Since the day we joined the Galactic Council, Admiral Vasquez replied. We knew this day would come. How could you know? Because it always comes, Ambassador. There is always someone who wants to destroy everyone else. Always. They docked at a massive space station orbiting the fourth planet. As Kethvar walked through the corridors, he saw humans working alongside creatures from dozens of different worlds. Many of them he recognized as survivors from planets the collective had attacked. You have been recruiting, he observed. We have been teaching, Admiral Vasquez corrected. Anyone who wants to learn human military doctrine is welcome here. They reached a large conference room where Dr. Chen was waiting with Admiral Thexmore and several other officers. To Kethvar's surprise, half of them were not human. Ambassador, Dr. Chen said. Welcome to Project Hope. Project Hope? Admiral Thexmore stood up. Dr. Chen has been teaching us something called Hope Mathematics. Kethvar sat down slowly. I do not understand. Dr. Chen activated a display that showed complex equations and probability charts. Ambassador. Every species in the galaxy calculates the chances of winning before they fight. If the chances are bad, they surrender or retreat. That seems logical. It is logical. But humans do not calculate the chances of winning. We calculate the chances of losing. What is the difference? The difference, Admiral Vasquez said, is that when you calculate the chances of winning, you only see the paths that lead to victory. When you calculate the chances of losing, you see all the ways the enemy can make mistakes. Dr. Chen brought up a new display showing the collective fleet movements over the past months. Look at this pattern, Ambassador. The collective attacks in the same way every time. They gather their full force, overwhelm the target, then move on. Yes, that is why they are unbeatable. No, Dr. Chen said. That is why they are predictable. Unbeatable and predictable are not the same thing. A young officer that Kethvar recognized as Altarian spoke up. Ambassador. Dr. Chen taught us to ask a different question. Not, how do we beat them? But, what happens if they cannot find us? I do not understand. Admiral Thexmore walked to the display. Ambassador, the collective has 50,000 ships. That seems like a lot. But the galaxy has 400 billion star systems. They cannot watch them all. But they do not need to watch them all. They only attack inhabited worlds. Exactly, Admiral Vasquez said. So what happens if we make it look like the worlds are uninhabited? Dr. Chen brought up images of human rescue operations. For 6 months, we have been evacuating people from planets before the collective arrives. Not just humans. Everyone. But the collective censors. See empty worlds, Admiral Thexmore finished. So, they move on, without attacking. Kethvar stared. You have been hiding entire populations? Temporarily, Dr. Chen said. We take them to uninhabited systems. Safe systems. Systems the collective has already checked and ignored. How many people have you saved? 3 billion so far. From 87 worlds, Kethvar felt dizzy. 3 billion people that we thought were dead? Not dead. Relocated. And while the collective thinks they are winning, we have been studying their ships, learning their weaknesses, and building our own fleet. Admiral Vasquez gestured to the windows where they could see the vast human shipyards. Ambassador, what you see here is not just human ships. These are vessels built using technology from every species in the galaxy. Weapons that combine human tactics with Centaurian engineering. Shields that merge Altarian defense systems with Rigel power cores. The survivors you rescued helped design them? More than helped, Dr. Chen said. They are our partners. This is not a human fleet, Ambassador. This is a galactic fleet that humans organized. An alarm began sounding softly. A technician called out, Admiral, the collective main fleet is moving toward Earth. Admiral Vasquez nodded. Right on schedule. Begin Operation Final Answer. What is Operation Final Answer? Kethvar asked. The end of this war, Admiral Vasquez said. Ambassador, the collective thinks Earth is humanity's homeworld. They think if they destroy it, we will be broken. Is it not your homeworld? It was. But Ambassador, we evacuated Earth 4 months ago. Every human, every animal, every plant. Earth is now an empty world with very convincing fake population centers. So when they attack Earth, they will find nothing but empty cities and holographic projections. While they waste time destroying an empty planet, we will attack their real targets. Dr. Chen brought up a galaxy-wide display. The collective operates from 17 hive nodes. Command centers that control their entire fleet. They think these nodes are secret and protected. They are not? Admiral Thexmore smiled. Ambassador, we have been tracking their communications for months. We know where every hive node is located, and while their main fleet attacks empty Earth, our forces will attack all 17 nodes at the same time. How many ships do you have? 12,000, Admiral Vasquez said. About 700 ships per target. But the collective has 50,000 ships. Yes, and 46,000 of them will be at Earth, attacking nothing. That leaves 4,000 ships to guard 17 vital targets. Kethvar did the mathematics in his head. 235 ships per target, against 700 of ours, at each location. But your ships are smaller, Dr. Chen interrupted. Ambassador, our ships are not smaller. They are faster, smarter, and designed specifically to fight the collective. Every weapon, every shield, every system has been built to exploit their weaknesses. What weaknesses? They are a hive mind, Admiral Vasquez explained. They think as one entity. That makes them very good at coordinated attacks, but it makes them very bad at adapting to surprises. And you plan to surprise them? 17 times in one day. The technician called out again. Admiral, all fleets report ready. Earth evacuation teams are clear. Admiral Vasquez stood up. Ambassador, would you like to watch us end this war? The next 6 hours were the longest of Kethvar's life. From the command center on Valhalla, they watched displays showing battles across 17 star systems. Human ships, built with technology from dozens of species, attacked the heart of the collective empire. At first, it seemed impossible. The human fleets were outnumbered at every target. But as the hours passed, Kethvar began to understand what he was seeing. The collective ships fought the same way they always fought. Direct attacks, overwhelming force, predictable patterns. But the human fleet fought like nothing the collective had ever faced. Ships that appeared from nowhere. Weapons that changed their attack patterns every few seconds. Tactics that seemed insane until they worked perfectly. How are they doing this? Kethvar whispered. Dr. Chen pointed to different battles on the displays. At Target 7, we are using vegan hit and run tactics from 300 years ago. At Target 12, we are using Rigel defensive formations. At Target 4, we are using a combination of Centaurian engineering and Altarian mathematics. Target 9 is my favorite, Admiral Thexmore said. They are using a battle formation that my people developed and then forgot about. It only works against enemies who cannot adapt quickly, which the collective cannot do. Exactly. One by one, the hive nodes fell. Each time a node was destroyed, hundreds of collective ships across the galaxy stopped responding to orders. What is happening to them? Kethvar asked. Without the hive nodes, they cannot think, Admiral Vasquez explained. They are just machines, following their last orders. By the end of the 6th hour, all 17 hive nodes were gone. The collective fleet at Earth was still attacking empty cities, but they were no longer receiving new orders. What happens now? Kethvar asked. Now we clean up, Admiral Vasquez said. Ships without orders are easy targets. It will take a few weeks to hunt them all down. But the war is over. Admiral Thexmore looked at Kethvar. Ambassador, I need to ask you something. When you came here, you said the Council was ready to follow someone who knows how to fight. Yes. Are you sure? Because this is how humans fight. We evacuate entire worlds. We sacrifice planets to destroy enemies. We plan battles that take months to set up and years to understand. Kethvar thought about everything he had seen. The students who chose to die at New Geneva. The 3 billion refugees who had been secretly saved. The massive fleet built in hidden shipyards. The impossible coordination of 17 simultaneous battles. Admiral, he said finally. I think the Council is ready to learn. But I have one question. What is that? If you could evacuate 3 billion people, why did you not evacuate the students at New Geneva? Admiral Vasquez was quiet for a long moment. Because, Ambassador, sometimes people have to see what we are willing to sacrifice. Otherwise, they do not understand that we are serious. The students knew they were dying to send a message. They knew they were dying to save the galaxy. The message was just part of the price. Dr. Chen added softly. Ambassador, hope mathematics includes calculating the cost of hope itself. Sometimes, to give everyone else hope, some people have to give up their own. As Kethvar looked out at the human shipyards and the rescued refugees and the displays showing victory across 17 systems, he realized something that would change the galaxy forever. Humans did not fight wars to win them quickly. They fought wars to make sure they never had to fight them again. 6 months after the last collective ship fell silent, the Galactic Council met in a new chamber. The old one had been destroyed when the collective attacked the neutral zone. This new chamber was different, smaller, more practical, built like a fortress instead of a crystal ball. Admiral Elena Vasquez stood at the center podium where Ambassador Kethvar had once spoken about surrender. But now she wore the uniform of the Supreme Allied Commander, and the creatures looking down at her no longer looked afraid. Friends, she began, using Kethvar's old greeting. We gather today to talk about the future. The chamber was quieter than it had been 6 months ago. 23 species had been completely destroyed by the collective. Their empty seats served as a reminder of what they had lost. The war is over, Admiral Vasquez continued. But the peace must be protected. This is why I propose the Terran Doctrine. A creature from the Vega system raised one of her wings. Admiral, what exactly is the Terran Doctrine? A new way of thinking about defense. Instead of each species protecting only themselves, we create a galaxy-wide defense network. Shared fleets. Shared intelligence. Shared training. Ambassador Kethvar, now serving as the Council's Secretary of Defense, stood up. The Admiral is proposing that we all learn to fight like humans. Not exactly, Admiral Vasquez said. I am proposing that we all learn to fight like ourselves, but with human organization and planning. Admiral Thexmore, who now commanded the Council's unified fleet, activated a display showing star charts. The collective taught us that isolated defenses do not work. One species alone cannot fight a galactic threat. But united, Admiral Vasquez said, 800 species can fight anything. A spider-like creature from the Rigel system clicked its mandibles. Admiral, some of us are concerned about human militarism. You have shown us tactics that are disturbing, such as acceptable losses, calculated sacrifices, the willingness to destroy worlds, to save them. 4. Admiral Vasquez nodded slowly. You are right to be concerned. These are disturbing concepts. But let me ask you this. Would you rather live in a galaxy where such tactics are never needed? Or one where they are needed but no one knows how to use them? The spider creature was quiet. The Terran doctrine is not about making everyone fight like humans. It is about making sure that when someone needs to fight like humans, they know how. Dr. Sarah Chen, now director of the Human Archive Project, approached the podium. If I may, Admiral. Of course, Doctor. Dr. Chen activated a new display showing a vast database. The Human Archive Project has now cataloged the complete military history of every known species in the galaxy. 847 different ways of fighting, 12,000 major battles, 43,000 tactical innovations. All of this knowledge is available to every council member, Admiral Vasquez added. Free of charge, no restrictions, we hide nothing. A bird-like creature from Altair spoke up. Why would you give away such valuable information? Because, Dr. Chen said, the best defense against being conquered is making sure your potential conquerors know exactly how you would fight them. And because, Admiral Vasquez added, the best way to win a war is to make sure it never starts. Ambassador Kethvar gestured toward the empty seats. 23 of our friends died because they could not defend themselves. If they had known what we know now, they might still be alive. The chamber was quiet for several minutes. Finally, the spider creature from Rigel spoke. What if someone uses this knowledge against us? What if a species decides to conquer others using human tactics? Admiral Vasquez smiled. Not the cold smile from the early days of the war, but a tired one. Then they will face 800 species who all know those same tactics, and who have had time to prepare countermeasures. Dr. Chen brought up another display. We are also establishing military academies on 47 worlds. Any species can send students. They will learn not just human tactics, but the military traditions of their own people and others. Integration through education, Admiral Thexmore explained. Students who train together fight together, and species who fight together rarely fight each other. Suddenly, alarms began sounding. The same alarms that had announced the collective's arrival so many months ago. A technician called out, Admiral, unknown vessels detected at the Galactic Rim. Configuration unknown. They appear to be approaching rapidly. The old fear tried to return to the chamber. Some creatures began to stand, preparing to run, but Admiral Vasquez held up her hand. How many ships? She asked calmly. Difficult to determine, Admiral. Perhaps 10,000. They are using some kind of stealth technology. Council Defense Fleet, report status. Admiral Thex Moore said into his communicator. All fleets ready, Admiral. Human Archive Tactical Database online. We have war game scenarios for 15 different types of unknown enemy. Any matches to the sensor data? Checking now. Yes, sir. Configuration matches theoretical Voidwalker design from the extinct Helios civilization. Recommend response pattern. 7. Admiral Vasquez looked around the chamber. 6 months ago, this news would have caused panic. Today, the council members looked concerned but not terrified. Ambassador Kethvar, please coordinate civilian evacuations using Protocol 12. Admiral Thex Moore, implement response pattern 7, but maintain flexibility for tactical adaptation. Dr. Chen, please access all available data on Helios military history. Already done, Admiral, Dr. Chen said. The Helios were defeated by the Voidwalkers 800 years ago, but their records survived. The Walkers use overwhelming numerical superiority, but have rigid command structures. Weaknesses. They cannot adapt to changing tactics mid-battle. and they rely heavily on intimidation. If their initial attack fails, they tend to retreat and regroup. About day 10. They revived there's note of the two-knot. Admiral Thex Moore was coordinating with fleet commanders across the galaxy. Admiral, we have 300 ships in immediate response range. Another 2,000 can arrive within 6 hours. Composition? Mixed fleet. Human vessels with Centaurian weapons. Altarian ships with Rigel shield technology. Vegan fast attack craft with human tactical computers. A new voice came over the communication system. Admiral, this is Captain Sarah Harrison aboard the Times New Geneva Asterisk. My crew includes graduates from the military academy. We request permission to lead the first response wave. Admiral Vasquez paused. Captain Harrison was one of the students who had survived the destruction of New Geneva Academy. She was now 26 years old and commanded a ship crewed by young people from 20 different species. Permission granted, Captain. You know the Helios Tactical Database? Yes, Admiral. We studied them last month in Advanced Historical Warfare class. Professor Chen's course. Dr. Chen looked proud. Captain, remember what we learned about the Walker psychology? They expect their enemies to be afraid. Understood, Professor. We will show them that fear is a choice. Over the next 4 hours, the Council watched as the new generation of galactic defenders faced their first major test. Ships crewed by mixed species, using tactics that combined the wisdom of dozens of civilizations, fought with coordination that would have been impossible before the human arrival. The battle was not easy. The Voidwalkers were powerful and numerous, but they made the same mistake the collective had made. They assumed their enemies would fight in predictable ways. Instead, they faced human persistence combined with Centaurian engineering. Altarian mathematics enhanced with Rigel creativity. Vegan speed tactics coordinated through human strategic planning. Captain Harrison's mixed species crew used a battle formation that combined elements from 6 different civilizations. The Voidwalkers, expecting simple defensive patterns, found themselves facing tactics their rigid command structure could not counter. When the fighting ended, the Voidwalker fleet was in retreat. 60% of their ships destroyed. The Galactic fleet had lost only 18 vessels. Admiral Vasquez stood before the Council again. Many of the representatives were crying. Not from fear this time, but from pride. The Terran doctrine works, she said simply. Not because it makes you fight like humans, but because it lets you fight like yourselves at your very best. Ambassador Kethvar wiped his eyes. Admiral, the Council votes to approve the Terran Doctrine. Unanimously. 3 years later, Admiral Elena Vasquez, now retired, stood on the observation deck of the rebuilt New Geneva Academy. Below her, in the main training hall, students from 47 different species worked together on tactical problems. Her hair was completely gray now. New scars marked her face and hands. But her eyes were peaceful as she watched the young people below. A familiar voice spoke behind her. Admiral, you look thoughtful. She turned to see Dr. Chen, also older and grayer, approaching with 2 cups of tea. Just watching the future, Sarah, and thinking about the past. Any regrets? Admiral Vasquez accepted the tea and was quiet for a moment. About the war? No. About the prices we paid? Every day. Below them, a young Altarian was explaining a tactical concept to a mixed group that included humans, Centaurians, and creatures from a dozen other worlds. They listened intently, asked questions, shared ideas. Elena, do you think we did the right thing? I think we did the necessary thing. History will decide if it was right. Dr. Chen pointed to the students. Look at them. Children who would have been enemies 20 years ago. Learning to protect each other. If that is not right, then nothing is. Children, a young voice called out from below. Admiral Vasquez? Could you help us with a problem? Admiral Vasquez looked down to see Captain Harrison, now an instructor at the academy, standing with a group of first-year students. What kind of problem, Captain? We are studying the principle of acceptable hope. The students want to know how you decide what prices are worth paying. Admiral Vasquez was quiet for a long time. Then she walked down to join the students. Dr. Chen followed. The principle of acceptable hope, Admiral Vasquez said to the young faces looking up at her, is not about accepting that people will die. It is about making sure their deaths mean something. A young human student raised her hand. But how do you know if a death means something? You ask yourself 3 questions, Admiral Vasquez replied. First, will this sacrifice save more lives than it costs? Second, is there truly no other way? Third, are the people making the sacrifice doing it by choice? And if the answer to all 3 is yes, asked a Centaurian student, then you accept the responsibility of their gift. You honor their memory by using what they gave you to protect others. And you make sure that future generations understand the price of their freedom. An Altarian student spoke up. Admiral, some people say humans are too willing to die for their beliefs. Admiral Vasquez smiled. And some people say other species are too willing to live without beliefs worth dying for. The truth is probably somewhere in between. What do you believe is worth dying for? Asked a Rigel student. The right of these questions to be asked freely. The chance for all of you to find your own answers. The hope that someday, no one will need to make these choices at all. Dr. Chen added, but until that day comes, someone must be ready to make them. As the lesson continued, Admiral Vasquez looked around at the faces of the students. They came from worlds that had once been strangers to each other. They spoke different languages and thought in different ways, but they were learning to stand together. Outside the Academy windows, ships from the unified galactic fleet patrolled the stars, each one crewed by mixed species, each one carrying the combined wisdom of 800 civilizations. The galaxy was not perfect. There would be other wars, other enemies, other prices to pay. But now there were people ready to pay them, people who understood that freedom was not free, that peace was not passive, and that hope was something you fought for, not something you waited for. Admiral Elena Vasquez had kept her promise to the Galactic Council. She had taught them how to win a war they thought was impossible to win. But more than that, she had taught them how to be worthy of the victory.